All right, so this is chapter 10 of Plasticine Soul, a clean break. We have a triggering content warning for descriptions of gun violence for this chapter specifically.
Yeah. And this is a cyberpunk alternate universe before us Alternia hybrid AU. I wrote.
Yes, this is literally a novel. Look at the number of words, 136,672 words, 67 chapters.
Shania is a fucking legend.
And the time frame which it was published, 2 months.
Seriously, what the actual fuck?
Actually 2.5 months.
God, absolute powerhouse. Gotta hook your brain up to a generator. We have unlimited power.
The sequel slash prequel to this is being written, but it's currently on hold because I'm writing stuff for a bunch of zines. So that comes first.
Yo, just casually.
Yeah, exactly. All right, whenever y'all are ready.
Thank you.
I'm ready.
All right. 12th Periges Eve, Rust District, North Alternian Capital. New subnet located, 7.x.x, high security. New devices found, unknown device, 7.x.x, high security. 6 times. Arania stared at the terminal feedback. She was seeing exactly what Matuna's wetware headset was returning from the field. But it didn't make any sense. The new devices had just appeared on the network, and that was probably just crosstalk from the Alternian military. Arania knew that the wetware sometimes picked up the pings from nearby military networks. But that didn't make any sense. New device ID recognized. Thermal sensor array, 7.x.x, high security. Camera array, audio array. Comm array, felt defense. Sentry gun array. Arania's eyes grew wide, and she fought the urge to scream. After all, who was she going to scream to? They weren't picking up a military network. They were on a military network. Arania ran to the far end of the warehouse, where the weapons were stored, and grabbed one of the Alternian army carbines that they'd brought for the job. She ran back to the terminal. The radio crackled to life.
You need to get out now. Shut the hell up. We're about to breach the vault. Get ready to pop that thing open. You need to get out now.
What the fuck?
Gunfire over the feed from the audio sensor arrays, tinny and distant because she wasn't plugged into the felt directly.
Fuck.
Arania screamed at no one and pounded a fist on the desk where the terminal rested. More gunfire, the sound of bullets hitting metal. The audio sensor array lost feed for the lower hallway, and the sound cut off. And then a sudden blast of white noise garbled in with the sound of Matuna screaming, like Arania had only heard once before. The ice pick was burrowing right into her temples, right into her brain. In front of her eyes, the world went brilliant green, and the pain was so much that she knew she was going to pass out. She didn't pass out. She screamed, but it had been coming from her own mouth. Arania grabbed the terminal keyboard. Lockout, all users. Command not recognized. Reset, all. Command not recognized. I'm sorry about this. Oh, you want to? No, you do him. He's good, yeah.
I'm sorry about this, my sweet girl, but it's for the best.
He hammered the keys, but the terminal wasn't responding. Arania could feel tears streaming down her face. A combination of abject terror and sheer white-hot anger was burning inside her stomach. She grabbed the radio and hit the button to transmit, but was greeted only by static squelch.
That didn't capture, I'd assume.
Nope.
Oh, okay. Fuck!
Arania screamed again as she grabbed the assault carbine and ran back over to the corner of the warehouse. She heard the clatter of metal, a series of cans that had been suspended from a series of counterweights and rigged to a tripwire. A low-tech perimeter alarm courtesy of Damara and Mulin, neither of whom trusted technology. Someone was coming in. Arania grabbed what she needed, a small cylindrical object covered in yellow warning labels, and ran back to the terminal. She set the object down, opened the case, and set the timer, then ran to the far end of the warehouse and crouched down behind a heavy metal shelf filled with tools. A few seconds later, the thermal grenade went off with a loud thump, and the entire warehouse lit up with a flare that immediately disappeared. Arania poked her head out to check. The terminal and everything in the immediate vicinity was a glowing pile of slag. Never get attached to anything, and be ready to walk at the first sign of danger. After the last time, Arania was going to live by that advice. Heavy boots running, the sound of footfalls on the concrete floor of the warehouse, shouting. 3 black-clad trolls wearing face masks and body armor appeared around the corner. Of course, they were all holding rifles. None of this was a coincidence. Arania had never been in the military. A blue blood didn't really have any incentive to join unless they were a thrill seeker or wanted the authority of being an officer. Arania wasn't a thrill seeker, and she didn't want authority. She wanted knowledge. That had drawn her in a particular direction with regards to her options within the Alternian power structure. It had required a surprisingly large amount of time on the firing range. He stepped around the corner of the metal shelving and fired a short burst from the carbine, hitting the first of the intruders in the upper torso, right above where the body armor ended. Red blood sprayed out the back, and the troll hit the ground hard. Arania pivoted and sent another burst into the upper body of the second troll. The first few rounds hit their armor plates, but the last couple struck the side of their lower jaw, and they fell back with a gurgling, wet scream. The last troll managed to get a shot off. Arania heard the crack of the rifle and felt a searing hot line in her side. But she was, after all, a blue blood, and the physical pain was something she could manage. She fired a single shot. The rifle round struck the troll dead center in the forehead, and the rear of their head blew out in a jet of rusty viscera. Arania didn't bother to stop to check on their bodies. She ran to the back door. She had an electric coupe parked in the back alley, and if fate was on her side, the 3 trolls that had just attacked her had been the only ones sent to deal with her. The back door of the alley banged up against the wall as Arania burst through it. She held the carbine up, waiting for another attack. The alley was clear, and the car was still there. Silently thanking whoever was keeping an eye on her, Arania slipped behind the wheel of her car and sent the carbine on the seat next to her. Before even starting the engine, she reached over and grabbed the handset for the radio telephone she'd installed, a not considerable personal expense for just such an emergency. She dialed the frequency for Mina's hardline, set the handset down, and started driving. As she raced out of the alley and onto the main street, she hoped that Mina was at home.
Up, you goddamn bitch!
Yelled to no one. The phone crackled.
What is it? I told you not to.
We got burned!
Arania yelled at the handset.
What? What the fuck are you?
I mean, we got burned. I trashed the drive and just killed. Oh, right.
No
Sorry.
worries, just keep going.
I trashed the drive and just killed 3 people.
You could feel the shaking start to set in. Time spent on the range, training, and conditioning. It was still the first time she'd actually taken a life. She felt like she was going to throw up.
Shit, what now?
Bank now.
She snapped back.
It was a trap. That fucking lying, no character, white text piece of shit.
He'd set them up from the beginning. Dangled enough incentives in front of them, and then...
Get out of your house.
Bitch, they're not gonna fucking touch me.
It's not they, it's him. Get your stupid fucking ass out!
She screamed at the handset. The radio phone cut out in a burst of static.
Fuck!
Arania screamed at the dead line. She pushed the coupe's accelerator to the floor. It didn't bode well that Arania could see a plume of ink-black smoke billowing in the air even before she arrived at the bank. Legis Corpus would be out in force soon. Periges Eve or no, this was turning into something that would be too big for them to ignore. She thought she could hear distant sirens already, but at this point it could easily be her mind playing tricks on her. Arania drove the car full speed in around the side of the bank, slowed, and pulled into the alley they'd planned to use for their approach. She suddenly understood the smoke plume. At the end of the alley was the burning remains of the van. Arania's hopes for Matuna and Kurlos being alive dropped to near zero. She rolled the coupe to a stop and stepped out, grabbing her carbine and checking the chamber. It was strange how quickly the training came back. She'd never been in the field in a combat capacity, but the Alternian Intelligence Service had been thorough in their neural conditioning. Her side was burning. She'd need to get that looked at soon. Arania didn't see anyone there. She approached the van's remains cautiously, but there was no sign of any security, and Legis Corpus hadn't showed up yet. There was no way to know if they'd been inside the van, but if Matuna and Kurlos hadn't gotten clear, they were dead now. A snap in the air next to her head and the crack of a rifle. Arania hit the ground as more bullets whizzed by. Her side exploded into a starburst of intense pain, and she cried out. She readied her own weapon and rolled toward a drainage ditch by the side of the alleyway. Down into the ditch, the hard pavement battering the wound in her side. She was staring into the face of Kurlos Makara. He was lying on his stomach in the ditch.
Oh, that's me.
Not picking up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it wasn't. He hissed at her. This is the Damara's line.
I wasn't Damara, was I? No, I wasn't.
Oh, I think Minty was Damara.
Come out, you fuckers!
Someone was shouting from the end of the alley near the building. Arania recognized the voice.
Mara!
She tried to call out, but her voice came back weak and slightly watery sounding. Her side was hurting so much.
Damara!
That was too much. Body decided it had had enough. Her eyes opened, and she was staring up at the cloudy, deep gray sky with her back on the grit of the ditch. Damara Megiddo was crouched next to her, pressing something into her side.
Don't move.
Damara said quietly.
I can at least stop the bleeding. We'll need to move before Legis Corpus gets off their asses and comes to see why there's a bunch of explosions in Rust Town.
Arania groaned and tried to speak, but Damara shook her head.
Don't. I'll fill you in. It was an ambush. Security systems went off before we got in the vault. We got away, but I think there's drones after us. Everyone's alive. Barely. Latula and Mulin got hit pretty bad in the drone strike. Matuna, he's alive, but he's unconscious. I don't know what happened with him.
Blast of garbled text on the terminal. Arania had a good idea of what had happened. She groaned.
We've got 4 injured, including you, and I have no idea how much time we've got.
Sirens. There were definitely sirens wailing in the distance now. Legis Corpus had woken up.
Can't believe this! Is this Damara still?
It's Damara, yeah.
Unlike last time, we've got no exfil unless your little car suddenly grew another 4 seats.
She shook her head and Damara nodded.
Yeah, I kind of figured, not gonna lie, this looks bad. Oh, that's
Kurlos' line.
The Messiah's lied to us.
Arania heard Kurlos' voice from nearby. There was something uncharacteristically dark about it.
Shut up.
Mara snapped.
We don't need that bullshit right now. You want to help? Go check on Latula and Mulin while I do this.
Shit.
Kurlos yelled out as if someone had just woken him up.
Kitty bitch.
Arania heard him stumble out of the ditch and run off toward the building. This is Damara.
Okay. Yeah. We're clear until Legis Corpus shows up, at least. There were maybe 6 or 7 guards inside, plus automated security, all neutralized.
Sirens getting louder. Damara could hear them too. She looked nervous.
Kurlos and I can... Is this Damara again?
Yeah, it's...
Okay, sorry.
It's all right.
Okay. Carlos and I can walk.
She continued.
Latula's not doing great, but she'll be alright. Mulin and Mituna are out. Can you move?
Arania nodded and groaned.
Okay, good. Can you drive?
Arania thought for a second. Then she nodded again.
Probably.
She managed to say that without too much pain. Sirens were growing even more now, and a low hum of noise in the background above them. One of the Legis Corpus rotary aircraft. Damara frowned.
That'll have to do. I'm thinking you take Matuna and Mulin and go to Mina's. Even these assholes wouldn't touch a fuchsia blood.
That sudden end to the conversation. Static on the radio phone.
I don't...
Arania struggled to speak around the pain in her side.
I don't think that's true. Fuck.
Mara grimaced.
It's all I've got. The rest of us will have to try and make it out on foot.
Mara pulled out a compression bandage from her kit and lifted Arania's shirt. She placed the compression bandage on, and Arania felt the suction of the seal in place.
Best I can do on short notice. Sorry.
Mara patted her shoulder and sat down heavily on the ground. It was definitely a rotary aircraft. Arania recognized the distinctive thrum of the blades in the air, still distant but closing in fast, and the sirens would be the ground vehicles, heavy-duty electrics designed to run clean and fast, designed to run down anyone that tried to escape. Arania let her head sink back into the grit and sand at the bottom of the ditch and stared up at the sky. It all seemed so obvious now. Between her training and her common sense, she should have seen that it was just going to be a trap. Then again, what choice did they have? They'd been on the clock ever since the last job, and they all knew it. The incentives? Those had just been a little extra spice on top of everything else. In the end, the meat of it was that they didn't have a choice. The sound of the rotary aircraft broke over the buildings, and it was all around them, closer than Arania had thought possible. A sweeping spotlight shone over the alley, bathing the entire place in a brilliant white light. The sound of the voice over the speakers was booming, easily heard over the aircraft's engines as it hovered over them. "Drop your weapons and lie face down on the ground!" Arania saw Damara start to reach for her carbine.
No!
She shouted. It hurt a lot to shout.
Don't! If they wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. Fuck.
Mara said with a tone that sounded more defeated than angry. Without saying another word, she turned and lay on her stomach next to Arania in the scrabble or sand and broken bits of pavement at the bottom of the ditch.